Why was Vaan chosen to be the Final Fantasy XII protagonist? Should it not be the royal prince, predestined to rule the kingdom, or the Cloud Strife first-class soldier, superhero type character? These formulas are all proven to work in the Final Fantasy series, and are popular among the fanbase. Instead, Final Fantasy XII introduces us to our protagonist inside of a sewer, among rats. No wonder he is known by some as a street rat, spending his days counting dire rats, pickpocketing on the streets of Rabanastre. Already our protagonist is not making a good first impression, and perhaps already being disliked by many a player, who are probably asking, where is that cool guy I just played with? And why am I stuck with this thief? In order to understand Vaan, you need to understand his background. Vaan, having lost his parents at a young age, grew up on the streets of Rabanastre, specifically in Lowtown, along with a fellow orphan, Penelo. His only father figure is a Banga merchant by the name of Migalo. With limited opportunities, he knows little of the outside world, and can only dream of flying an airship that flies over Rabanastre, or to catch a glimpse of the new Dalmascan consul, Vaan, making an appearance in his city. His harsh and unfortunate upbringing does however build his character, which we will see more of later. As our thief is scrounging for loot, enter Balthier, the self-proclaimed protagonist. And for a large portion of the story, Balthier does indeed overshadow Vaan, but this is done more by design, as Balthier acts as a big brother / role model to Vaan, who is moving up from being a lousy street thief to a sky pirate, just like Balthier. This is why it often seems like Vaan is more of a deuteragonist instead of a protagonist, at which point you may be wondering, what is the point of Vaan in the story anyway? And if he was removed completely, would that even matter? But being an unimpressive character actually makes Vaan the perfect fit for this title. The main story of Final Fantasy XII is centered around the world of Ivalice and the events that are taking place at this moment of its history between the kingdoms of Dalmasca, Arcadia and Rosaria. It is not a character-driven story, where all of the focus is on the emotional journey of a single individual, but a world-driven story, allowing the player to experience and enjoy the captivating world of Ivalice, as our characters all play their small part in a conflict that is much larger than themselves. This is where Vaan fits in so well, playing more of a supporting, light-hearted role in an intense conflict. Within such a serious and tense plot, the last thing we need is for our protagonist to have emotional breakdowns. Vaan is the office funny guy. His jovial, silly personality often brings color to a rather serious group of characters, who all seemingly have everything together, at least on the outside, and rarely make any silly mistakes like Vaan does. Although you never ask a woman her age, especially not a Viera, as Vaan learns the hard way. Vaan may be viewed as weak by some, but he actually has strengths that the others lack. I'm not talking about dashingly good looks or superhuman power. I'm talking about his character. Vaan is a kind guy with a big heart, always trying to include others in the group, even this little schemer. Although his older brother Rex was killed by who he thought was Bash, he has the strength to forgive Bash, after Bash explains that he was framed for killing the king and Rex by his twin brother Gabranth and Vane. A rather complicated excuse. The point is, Vaan's light-hearted character helps him quickly overcome adversity and not be bound by emotional struggles like the need for vengeance. In fact, it's Vaan that helps Princess Ash overcome her own desire for the vengeance of her husband, Prince Razla, who was felled by this random archer in a battle against the Empire. And just as Vaan made peace with losing his brother, he helps Ash come to an acceptance of her own loss and reject the false apparitions of Rassler. Vaan helps Bash get reintegrated back into society, starting by accepting him into his own group, as well as Fran, helping her make peace with her own kin. He has stronger character than people give him credit for. His growth can also not be overlooked. Vaan is from the streets, a commoner, unimpressive, and has little presence in the party. Yet throughout the story, he starts to step forward into a leadership role, which again is credit to Balthier, who acts as that role model to him. It's not where you start, but where you end up in the case of Vaan. And his growth is summed up at the end in the most profound statement to Princess Ash. Who said anything about being strong? You'll make it. You got good friends. This line blew me away, as well as everyone else in the party. This one statement sums Vaan up. He doesn't need to be the knight in shining armor superhero that saves everyone, and he doesn't expect that from his friends, not even from a royal princess. What he is saying is, we're in this together, no one has to carry it alone. Some may argue Vaan is just there to appeal to a younger audience, but he does very little to take away from a rather mature and deep story. In fact, quite ironically, I disliked Vaan as a kid, but as an adult I grew to like this character, because I better understood his role within the bigger picture. Vaan was intentionally chosen as the developer's Shirrako, or protagonist, already being presented in the game's demo long before its release. He is perfect for the role because he doesn't steal the show, so to speak. In fact, all the characters in the party are on a more equal playing field, allowing the player to play with and focus on whoever their favorite character is throughout large parts of the game. Vaan knows who he is and where he comes from. He never takes himself too seriously or feels the need to prove himself to anyone. All he cares about are making those around him better. Sure, Vaan is not the traditional protagonist that wows us all. He's just a regular guy, but that makes him more relatable to us, at least to most of us. He really is a man of the people.